Hello and welcome back to the Rutherford B. Hayes Hip Hop Memoriam podcast, where we talk about all of President Rutherford B. Hayes' contributions to hip hop and the hip hop community at large. Once again, we have found nothing this week in terms of contributions to hip hop made by Rutherford B. Hayes. But yeah, tune in next week. Thank you so much. No, of course, this is a Cooper Lyden podcast. This is a Lone Comedy Hour spectacular weekly show. Hosted by Cooper Lyden, audienced by Cooper Lyden, camera operated and directed by Cooper Lyden. It's all in-house, folks, and you can really see it. My friend was listening to the podcast, because that's who listens to this, people I know. And, you want people to listen. You just don't realize people you know and have known for years are going to listen. And, their reviews are always honest and probably needed. My friend told me that his girlfriend watched it, and then his girlfriend's friend watched it, that's a review that you want to get. Your friend's girlfriend's friend is a stranger. They're not going to lie about what the podcast needs, and they're not going to shit on it uselessly either because they don't know you. They watched it. My friend told me that this person said, it's good, he just doesn't seem like he wants to be there. And that is a welcome critique. I really can't sit here and act like I'm coming in every day firing on all cylinders. I mean, I've been sad lately, a little more than usual. But even besides that, it's hard to walk into a solo podcast that is filmed in your own studio apartment by yourself and has very few viewers. And you know what? Maybe that's the problem. I'm not bringing the A game, She said maybe he would like having a friend. And if you are watching this podcast and you think that, I do have great news because I have a new podcast coming with my friend Shane Bianchi called The Dag Nabbit Boys. You can shit on the name all you want. Listen, the name is the name. That's coming soon. I will have a friend if you find this podcast to be too lonely. For some reason, I do plan to continue this podcast, which I think that's the most arrogant I get, that I've been doing this for like over a year, and it really hasn't grown at all. Somewhere in my brain, I'm like, I think I got to keep this podcast going just for the real Cooper heads in the clan. If I go just to this other thing, I'm leaving the Cooper Lyden purists, all to their own devices. That would be like if Jack Johnson joined a band. All the Jack Johnson fans would be like, that's great, but I miss the solo acoustics. I love everything he's doing with Jack White and the guy from the Black Keys, but, Anyway, I think they should do that. They should make, because you know how they make those power bands where, like, Jack White and the guy from, the Raconteurs? It was, like, Jack White, the guy from Queens of the Stone Age, maybe one of the guys from Black Keys, but, like, all, like, the current rock guys started, like, a super group. And then they also did that with, like, the Traveling Wilburys, like Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, George Harrison. So there's been these, but mostly rock. They should have like a super group of all the chill guys. So you get like Dave Matthews, Jack Johnson, what's his name? Jason something. What he has a I won't wait. God damn it. You get it. He's the guy that wears the fedora. Because I know they did an SNL sketch where they portrayed all those guys together. And I don't know if the joke was that they were... No, it was just like the chill hours, like the chill corner, everybody's chill. But I just think it would be sick. I'm just saying, if you get all those guys together, and then you have them do like stadiums, and just having them come out with 3 acoustic guitars, the 3 of them, 3 mics, and just the Kia Forum is just explode, just like, fuck! And they go into like a trio version of Banana Pancakes, and everybody's like, my fucking brain is melting, That would be sick. I like when that happens. When that I notice that's like a thing that happens all the time in sports, but it can also happen in music. I'll explain. What I mean is, my friend was talking about like loving football, and I like football, but he loves football. And he was like, real football guys, obviously, you get excited about like some game that's coming up in like 6 months where you're like, oh shit, like, Ohio State's going to play Michigan. That's going to be a good one or whatever. You get excited about that. And I was like, I just realized what you're excited about with sports is the same reason people like Fish and the Grateful Dead. And what I mean is that like this year, if you don't know the band Fish, they do 4 nights at Madison Square Garden. They have a theme every year. So this theme this year was Gamehenge, which is like an album that they haven't played in like 20 years. I haven't played this album live. And they made the whole theme of these 4 days that album. And the way people felt when they revealed the theme in Madison Square Garden, they were like, I've been waiting forever, is exactly the same as how Detroit Lions fans feel right now, having won a playoff game. Because I was in a bar and there was a guy and he was like, this is where it came from, is there was a guy in the bar as a Detroit Lions fan. When they won, he went, I've been waiting my whole fucking life for this. And then just every 30 seconds would just go, woo! And that is, I swear to God, the same feeling that happens when a 56-year-old man is seeing John Mayer with the Dead and Company, and they do like a Franklin's Tower, or I mean a Help on the Way into Slipknot into Franklin's Tower. Like that's the same feeling of like, hey, it was fucking insane right at the end of the show. Like, there's some goal line passes that happens at concerts. If they pull out some shit, you know what I mean? Big slam dunk finish to a Dead and Company show to play, LA Fadeaway at Dodger Stadium or whatever, which they didn't. And a lot of people were angry about that. It's the same kind of like stat knowledge of like, well, they're here, so they're probably going to run this play or play this song. You know what I mean? It's the same level of ferocity. There are guys that get tapes and tapes of Fish and the Dead. The same as guys watching games from the 70s, some Bills versus Niners game. And they're like, what? I don't even know when those teams would play each other. But anyway, you get it. And, that's the kind of energy that we need to get around this podcast. That you tune in, and then it's like, holy shit, he's doing a riff about Sandy Hook. Oh, my God, he's going to do it, But maybe I need to get over, some fear. Because maybe I'm afraid that even saying Sandy Hook is going to make this podcast illegal. And I have all the right thoughts on it, that I think it was super bad, and I think a bad guy did it, and everybody involved besides the bad guy was a victim. Those are, goddamn it, but then I fuck up because the cops were kind of pussies about it, but then, so anyway, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with. That's what's been going on. But yeah, we have the new podcast coming out soon, and other than that, I've just been, wondering what's wrong with me. That might also be an issue with the energy on the podcast. I don't have energy really in life at all. I usually take a nap every single day. I was probably going to do it before work today until I remembered that I do need to record the podcast at some point. And so I'm doing this when I would like to be napping. And I think that's the case with every single episode that I release, which is that I'm doing it, but if you ask me what I would rather do, I would say napping. And my brain would be like, well, I like podcasting. I like to be successful podcasting. I love to build this up. Like the idea of it, sure, I'm in, but actually doing it is really just the worst. And I just have to accept that everything kind of is exhausting. Like I get to go up tonight and I have to work at the Comedy Store, but I also get to perform 15 minutes of stand-up. And even that, it's so exciting, but I'm also like, oh, God, you got to leave your house for so long and you're going to be on your feet. I think I have an iron deficiency. I think that's what's going on because I take a nap a day, and it's after about 2 hours of anything. It could really be 2 hours of anything. Like sometimes I get up and I make a coffee, and then I've been doing hash browns, but with shit inside of the hash browns. Let me give you a fucking tip just to improve your shitty fucking life that you hate, is you get the pan hot, and then you lay down a small layer of hash browns just to cover the pan, just kind of one layer. And then you put in like tomatoes and bell peppers and pre-fried bacon that you fry, because you want to cook it before. You put that in there, and then you put another layer of hash browns over. So now you have sort of a potato, sort of a humongous latke, I guess, but there's shit in it now. I don't know why I compared them to latkes. That was kind of unneeded. But I do that. I drink a coffee. I maybe record a podcast. I maybe make a clip. I maybe read a book. I maybe write stand-up. I maybe go down the street and get quarters and do laundry. I maybe go to the market. It's really one of those. If I do two, we're firing on all cylinders. But one of those things, or nothing, or just wake up, don't get out of bed for 2 hours. No matter what happens, I gotta get back down for a nap. I'm like a baby. It's you wake up and you do like one thing, and then it's like, oh, he's tired. Wow, he's already tired. Okay, I guess he's going down again. Like I imagine there's like a 73-foot woman in like a Stregonona kind of get up, with like the dress and the apron, and she's just watching me outside my window. Like there's a humongous eyeball looking in through my window, and it's like, oh, he's going down again. Okay. Oh, tired guy. Oh, he's making a mush of food. He's making some kind of mush for himself, making a bacon salad, and then going back to bed. So that's kind of the energy that I'm bringing a lot to this podcast. And I honestly think the best thing for this podcast would be a doctor visit of some kind. Just, because I got moles that I feel like weren't there before in my body. I'm so tired. I'm peeing a lot. I think I have diabetes or an iron deficiency. And, I can live with either of those. We'll get through it. I would not like diabetes because I don't want to have something strapped to my arm that's that's gross to me. And I'm sorry for all the people with diabetes that offends, but I know it's gross to you too, and that's your struggle, and I don't mean to shit on it, but I don't want a box on my arm. I'd rather have an iron deficiency, but I would like something. That feeling when you feel so bad that you're like, listen, I don't want to go in there and get really bad news, but I would like some news. Because if I go in there and they're like, everything is good, then it's like, okay, so are you telling me that I have a regular level of energy? Because if that's true, that's really scary, because that means that I'm just impossibly lazy. That it's like, wait, so everybody is this tired all the time? And I just can't fucking handle it? Because that's like my biggest fear. Like a lot of people are like, they're worried they'll go crazy or broke or drug addict, but I'm just worried that this is how tired I am. That the rest of my life is like the level of tired that I am. Now, that being said, maybe if I ate right, slept right, and exercised, I would have more energy. I have heard that those three things can have a subtle effect on the way you feel. I mean, I think that's probably it. I think I'm probably just not healthy enough that I need to do shit to get energy. But I don't know. It's really interesting kind of what your body will acclimate to, like after what it's been told. Because I don't think I'm that tired. Because you hear athletes say this, and I don't know why I'm taking advice from like LeBron James. Not that he doesn't have good advice. I just feel like maybe I'm not at a point where I could actually execute. Maybe I need to start with like Steve Kerr advice. You know what I mean? Maybe some Big Shot Rob advice. Something like that, some simpler advice. But anyway, you hear LeBron James and other guys say this. They're like, I just don't really get tired because I don't have time to get tired. Even my therapist says that. He's a therapist. He has no NBA rings. And even he's like, I just don't really have time to lay around. I think that's the thing, is I think it's more of a mindset. Like I've told my body that after 2 hours of just having been out of bed, even if it's only 4 feet away from the bed, that it deserves a nap. So now I think it's just become a thing where I was like lazy or maybe feeling sad and would just be like, fuck it, I'll take a nap. But now my body's gotten to the point where it's like, hey man, it's 2:30. We gotta go down for a nap before 4 p.m. And I want you to know that it's going to take a while to get to sleep, and then you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to go to sleep for 30 minutes to 3 hours. And no matter what, you're going to wake up, and you're going to feel like you woke up in the middle of a deep sleep, and not that it was at all like a beginning, middle, end. Now you're up from the nap, and you feel you're just going to wake up, and you're going to be like, fuck, I need to sleep 5 more hours. I think somehow my body is capable of sleeping 16 hours. I think that's what we're getting into. Because, like, today I woke up, I had an alarm at 10, and then I was like, I'm going to get out of bed in a second. And I closed my eyes, I woke up, and it was 1 p.m. And I was like, how did my body just so easily be like... Because I went to sleep at 3, which is very late, but also it means I slept 7 hours, which is enough, and my body was still just, like, scrambling to tack on 3 more for a cool 10. And then even at the 10, I woke up and was like, I could keep sleeping. I could keep going. Like, I think my body is experimenting with hibernation. I think it's just like, wow, this guy's so lazy. Why don't we get really good at just sleeping for long as fuck and just see if that's maybe something he'd be into? Because he obviously doesn't want to go anywhere or do anything besides this comedy thing, which really just spikes all his hormones and emotions. Like, I don't think my body agrees with my career choice, you know what I mean? I think my mind and soul is like, okay, I mean, you just so you know, you can't handle this. Like, just, you react very emotionally to it. You either get, like, way too excited or you get way too fucking sad. And honestly, you know, both are pretty bad for the whole operation, so you need to chill out a little bit. So we're just going to put you to bed. I think that my body has just started producing, like, opium and stuff, and it's just like, just go to sleep. Just go to bed, because when you're awake, you're freaking the fuck out, okay? You're either on stage taking it too seriously, not having a good time, or you're at home and you, for some reason, just feel like you're the laziest person on earth, which is the thing making you lazy, by the way. So we're gonna put you to bed. And it's weird because I'm definitely sad, but it's sort of beyond that, you know, like where you're just kind of underwater and you can't really hear anything clearly. You're just kind of there, and you're just like, oof. Be good to close my eyes and drift away. Like, if I was in a war right now and I was shot, and there was some guy being like, "Don't go to the light," like I would go into it, you know. Like, I don't think I could will myself to keep living. Like, I don't know if I have that in me right now. There's, like, a pretty bad, like, survival instinct, you know? Like, I feel like all the survival instincts in my body have kind of just kind of waved a white flag, you know what I mean? Like the sleep is just like, whatever, you sleep at weird times, so we're just going to always be tired and always want to sleep. And the food is just like, I don't know, sometimes you eat at a normal time and sometimes you don't eat, so whatever. I don't care anymore. You know, and then my body's just mad. It's just like, well, I'm just going to piss whenever I want now, so you're going to piss a lot. That's pretty much, you know, I don't know if I'm unhealthy as much as my body's lashing out, which I think is the same thing, but I like to give my body more of an attitude, you know. My body's kind of a bitch, I think, you know. But like a sassy, like, you gonna fuck with me? All right. You know. I don't know. I'm also, it's interesting to think of the way your body reacts with having and not having stuff, because, like, you know, I haven't drank in, a month and a couple weeks or something like that. And that's when a lot of the not sleeping started, because I think my body was just like, oh, okay, no bedtime juice? Okay, we just got to think about everything, you know? And so hopefully that'll, you know, I'll be able to be a normal person and sleep. But I was thinking about it too. There's a lot of weed in my body. I like weed though, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like a fucking loser, and I don't think it's possible. So I'm just going to say it. I don't want to sound like a dumb stoner. I think it's fun that there are cannabinoid receptors in the brain. I already hate how I sound. I'm sorry. I think it's fun that there are receptors for weed in the brain, and that weed is pretty often in my brain. And I like to... It's just kind of nice to imagine, like, all the brain cells and everything, like, welcoming it back in, like a friend that hangs out a lot, but nobody minds that he's around a lot. Where they're like, hey, he's back, huh? Look at this guy. Because if you think about it, when the weed enters the body, it's almost like the boss gets high too. You know what I mean? Like, everything works differently and moves slower and is more chill. So they're like, oh, cool, like, we get a break because, like, we're going to get high, and everything in charge of us is going to get high, and everything we're in charge of is going to get high, and the whole body's just going to be high, and this will be a good time, you know what I mean? And it's just like weed is just like a cool friend that's just like like the receptors in the brain are like its couch, and it just kind of snuggles. It's just like, hey boys, you know. And I think it's fun. I also think it's kind of funny. I mean, I think I've talked about this before about how it's fucking, and everybody's talked about this before, but it's like hilarious that there are still like weed guys and even like weed comedians that like they talk about like, man, I fucking love weed, and they kind of act like they're kind of bad for doing it, you know? They're like, smoke, and it's like it's fully legal. It's the same as just drinking a lot, you know? Because but I like more than that is that I could be that if I wanted to, but I smoke a very similar amount of weed, but you just don't talk about it, which is fun. You know what I mean? You walk around in a Calvin Klein button up, and you are fucking high. You know what I mean? Because you don't think about it. Like when you really think about what you put in your body on a daily basis, you realize who you are, and not just what you're trying to present. You know. Because it's like I'll put gel in my hair and I put on a button-up shirt, and that made me feel better about myself today. But also, if I think about it, I eat probably 4 burgers a week, big burger guy, and I got weed in my system every single day somehow. And that's not a brag. I'm really just kind of a fiend. And that's when you realize you're like, okay, yeah, right. So I'm not like an intellectual. You know, I'm more of a Homer Simpson, Seth Rogen character. Which is not something I aspired to. A lot of people aspire to that, and I've sort of just found myself here. I think the problem was as a young person. I think this is the problem with me and a lot of other, mostly gay, literally gay and queer people have is they thought they were intellectuals when they were like 12 because they like liked poetry, you know, and then they were gay, and that was like sort of smart in a weird way. And then you get older and you realize you're like, oh no, I just fucking love smoking cigarettes. That's really what this has been all about. It's not that I'm not gay. I'm still gay. I just like, I'm not smart though. Like me and Nietzsche, we don't have a lot in common, it would seem. And even me and Bukowski don't have a lot in common. You know, it's just that we both like cigarettes. And then you spend a year and a half drinking a lot, and then you're like, okay, so I guess other guys can write beautiful works while hammered. But maybe I'm not Ernest Hemingway. Maybe I'm just a drunk 24-year-old in Los Angeles. Maybe that's, you know, kind of what I've been up to. And that's something you got to reconcile within yourself. You know what I mean? You got to learn that about yourself, and you got to stop playing these goddamn games acting like you're a fucking artist when really you're just drunk, you know? I don't know how we got here, but yeah, I don't know. Not drinking's been fine. I'd say it's been fine. I don't really check the app that's timing all of this a lot. I've talked about it before. I keep telling, you know, I've talked about this on the podcast that I don't want to act like I'm actually quitting. The problem is I can't stop telling people. I'm such a blabbermouth. I even tell people my own secrets, you know? I have my own secrets that I think keep this to your chest. And I just don't have enough new stuff to talk about. And secrets are sort of the best news that is possible. You know, that's why I don't like being told secrets, because people just tell you the best, most interesting thing ever. And then they say, don't tell anybody that. And you're like, God damn it. Because nothing else has happened to me today. You know what I mean? I just drove over to this restaurant to sit down with you, and you've told me such wild, interesting things. And then at the end of this amazing conversation, you go, this stays at the table. And you're like, well, what am I supposed to talk about the rest of the day then? Because you've told me all these interesting things that I'm thinking about now, and I just have to go and have conversations with other people and not bring up all these things. And, you know, and a lot of times you'll abstain because you go, okay, fine, it's not my right to say these really fucking interesting things. But then when it's yourself, that thought doesn't even happen. You're just like, you know, you're like, okay, this not drinking thing, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. And then you're like talking to someone, you're like, yeah, it's been like a month and 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you're exaggerating how long it's been, you know? And then you tell them, you're like, yeah, I'm not trying to tell people. And they're like, you shouldn't have told me. And you're like, fuck, you know? Or even worse than that, they go, I'm really glad for you. That makes me really happy. Because what they're telling you, they don't mean to tell you this, but what they're really telling you is, well, if you drink, I'm going to be very sad. I'm going to be so sad if you drink. And that's not what you wanted. You wanted to just not drink and to just not drink and to just see how long you could do that and see if it improves your life. But now you have this, in my head, this parade of invisible people that are constantly next to you, and they look like the grandparents from Courage the Cowardly Dog, and they're holding white picket signs, and they're saying, like, keep going, Cooper, for us, keep doing it. And really, nobody gives a fuck. You should just remember that the people telling you, I'm so glad you're not drinking, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. Why would they care? Unless they're like your own mother. And even then, she can live. You know what I mean? Like, she'll be okay. She's not going to think about it every single moment. And also, unless you do something really bad, she'll probably change her feelings about you. You know what I mean? Nobody fucking cares. But in my mind, when people say that, if I drink again, they'll kill themselves. You know, they'll die. So you just have these people next to you that are like, please, dear God, don't drink. And then you're just in your apartment with your hands over your stomach thinking about how the weed didn't really get you high enough to not freak out, and probably made you freak out more. And you remember you got gifted a Secret Santa, a small bottle of Maker's Mark, and you go, should I drink that? You know? And that I haven't succumbed to that yet, you know? But the bottle's still in my house, still unopened, and who knows? God knows what will happen, you know? I had a dream last night about this exact situation that I was talking, I think, to one of my friends, and I was saying about, I'm trying not to make a big deal about it. And then in that conversation, we were at a bar, and then I just got a beer, and I drank. And then, like, just a couple sips into the beer was just sort of like, why am I doing this? And I didn't have, like, a horrible sense of dread of, like, I let all these invisible parades of people down. I didn't really feel that. But I do remember feeling like, well, this was dumb. Because even though I tried not to build up this not drinking thing in my head so I wouldn't disappoint myself if I do drink again, I'm still disappointed. I am disappointed. But now, just in myself, it's actually less the feeling that I've let down the people I've told. It's really that I've let down myself in such a banal, just like, wow, what a stupid, but not even that big of a deal thing you've just done. And I just sort of had to sit with that. And then go, well, now if you want to not drink again, you can. Whatever, man. Just make your own fucking decision, but you're not what you were or whatever, And I think also kind of like in the dream, the relapse was also like not even, it just wasn't even that sad. I think that's what made it worse. It's almost like when you act out in front of your parent and they just go, I don't care. It's even worse than them like hitting you. Because it wasn't even like, oh my God. It was just like, yeah, man, no big deal. That was your decision to not drink, and then you made a different decision. So then you're sitting there being like, oh, so like this thing that inherently I feel is a big deal, to the point that I act like it's not a big deal, I've broken. But I haven't thought about it as a big deal. I'm actually really nonplussed by it and kind of reasonable, which is better than being, shattered by it. But is also the more boring reality of life, the kind of, yeah, man, you're your own God. You just, whatever, you deal with it, I think a lot of people don't like that. I think that's why God is a big part of AA, is because actually that invisible cheerleader helps a lot of people, and usually it's God. They're like, I drank, I've forsaken my oath to not only myself, but to God. And it's all over now, And I think it's a lot harder to go, if you drink, nobody will actually give a fuck. Except you, That's not always true. Maybe your wife said, if you drink again, I'll leave you or whatever. Some fucking bullshit they're yapping about. But, for the most part, it's really just you. It's only you that you can disappoint, Even if you lose everybody, maybe you're capable of not giving a fuck. It's still just about you. And I don't think a lot of people like that because it's not very sexy to be like, ugh. Yeah, there's an issue in my life, and I guess I'm just the one that has to solve it. God, this doesn't make me fucking horny, And that's boring to people. I think it's really boring to have full control of your life. I mean, it's definitely more exciting if you have a dictator, because then you're like, fuck you, But if you have a life of just pure freedom, I think most of the time people are scared, if not just bored by it. That's probably the problem with giving robots too many jobs. You need something to do. Even if it's flipping a burger, you'd still fucking rather do that than sit on the couch. You know what I mean? That's also, if you don't want to, if you're one of those people that thinks they're better than a shitty job, it's just sort of like, well, it's better than literally anything else you're going to do. Because if you're eligible for a shitty job, you're probably by default just a shitty person. You're probably a young person, so it's it's fine. I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of people that there's like this weird thing that I think has just come out of like the sort of I don't know. It's this weird offshoot, I feel like, of the Me Too movement, which has like a real practical basis of like, I'm in danger in my workplace. You know what I mean? I'm in danger from these predators in my workplace. Then it's just turned into just people just being like, they're like a intern and the job is hard and they're like, this is fucked up, and it's like, well, that's the first job though. Of course it's fucked. It's just shitty. I don't understand. It's like whenever anybody has a shitty job now, they think it's like an injustice. They're like, I don't make a lot of money at this job. And it's like, well, that sucks for some people. If you're like a person from Guatemala with no fucking ID, yeah, it sucks that the only jobs you can get are shitty. I'm sure you're capable of more. But if you're like a fucking 17-year-old, that's the perfect job. Is you should have the worst jobs in the world. You know what I mean? Or if you just entered a company, you should work more than other people should work, Because it is a weird thing where it's like, I do think a lot of CEOs are kind of lazy bullshitters. But I also think it's weird when people are like, isn't it bullshit that like CEOs don't do any work? And you're like, well, I mean, isn't the dream of everybody to do enough work to where eventually you can make a lot of money without doing a lot of work? I think most people would agree that that is kind of the dream. I don't think everybody's like, I want to work as hard as I possibly can until I fucking die. Like, I don't think that's what people want. I think people want to be comfortable. And the greatest thing in the world is to have a job that makes you a lot of money where you don't have to do a lot of shit. And if you can find a way to finagle that and or work hard enough to get it, yeah, I think you can lavish in your spoils a little bit. Like I'm not going to sit here and fucking defend billionaires like they deserve all their wealth. But I can sit here and defend a guy that, I don't know, makes fucking $600K running a company and maybe mostly just has meetings and just talks to people, That's fine. Because he probably had a big hand in the company and its growth. So, why are you mad that you have to deliver mail? I don't understand. I don't know. There was drama at my job. People saying that other door guys should give them a little bit of the cash they make, and it's like, well, when you work here longer, you are in positions to make more tips and do different things. So I don't understand why we, like, of all the people to ask for money, you're going to ask the poor people. I don't know. I'm just saying. There's a weird thing where a lot of people now are like, if I'm uncomfortable, it is bad. And it's like, maybe it's just a place that you're in your life right now, and you kind of have to accept that discomfort until you work hard enough and build up whatever kind of reputation, whatever industry you're in, to where you can be more comfortable. If comfort was just a given, then promotions and everything, it just doesn't, Listen, I'm not trying to sit here and preserve a hierarchical stupid-ass culture, but I also think that there's still good things to hierarchies. I think it's weird, especially when people get mad that they can't get in at a comedy club. They'll be like, oh, it's fucking too hard to get in at that club. It's like, well, yeah, that's how you make anything good, is you just don't let everybody in. Like, what do you want? Like, if it's like we're like different sports teams as comedy clubs. There's a powerful competitor in the Comedy Cellar. There's now a up-and-coming competitor, predator, if you will, with Comedy Mothership. There's great clubs around the nation. People love Laugh Factory Chicago and Zany's Nashville and Zany's Chicago. A lot of great improvs. You know what I mean? So you want to draft the best, and you want to have the best group of people that are primarily working at your club playing for your team. You can't just be like, oh, it's really hard to get on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's like, well, thank God it's hard to get on the Philadelphia Eagles, because that usually means people are good at it, And listen, there's a lot of unfairness in comedy, but a lot of that unfairness has subsided, at least in the current booking of many comedy clubs. If you look at the kind of people they're passing and stuff, it's not just one group of people, Also the C-Man, So you know that the Comedy Store is in a good place when the C-Man is a door guy, Obviously you want to have diverse voices and all types of different people, but you're kind of gaining no ground if you don't at least have a C-man to kind of hold up the pyramid, you know? To really be the base to a creative space, you need a guy like Cooper Lyden in there that usually has a pretty bad attitude. And then when he has a good attitude, it's kind of annoying because it's like, you were real fucking mad the other day. You know what I mean? That's what you need. And that's what we're seeing, you know? That's the kind of fucking shit that we're seeing. And the people tuning into this know the real deal, you know? But, I don't know. So, yeah, we're, trying to fucking think of one goddamn thing to talk about. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe that's why I'm not so excited to come in here. Because with the podcast that's coming out with my friend Shane, you know, we can talk about a whole lot of nothing, you know? And listen, I'll talk about this. I was at a rock climbing gym and I was slighted by a 6-year-old. The rock climbing gym experience did not start off well. If you don't know what a rock climbing gym is, you probably can guess. But it's you know, when you were a kid and there would be like one rock wall and they would put you in a harness and you can climb up it. So adults do that now, except without harnesses and smaller walls. It's to practice a kind of rock climbing called bouldering, where you don't use ropes and you climb just with nothing but your hands. And now there's gyms with colored walls and rocks where you can practice the art of bouldering. So it's interesting because you have a lot of adults there. And then kids are allowed. So it's like, you're walking around, you're like, is this a Chuck E. Cheese? You know what I mean? Like, just, is this a Chuck E. Cheese? Am I an adult in a Chuck E. Cheese right now? Is this like teenage Chuck E. Cheese and I'm acting like I'm exercising? But yeah, you just have kids and then you just have like, I don't know, French perverts or whatever. That's who rock climbs. I've been there like 4 times. I do the real easy stuff, you know, because I have nothing to prove to these sex addicts at the rock climbing gym. I went in twice. When I went in and I check in, I buy my day pass and I rent my fucking stupid, pointless rock climbing shoes. They're just Vans. They just give you a pair of Vans, pretty much. Both times I have went, the guy at the counter has called me buddy. I don't know. Listen, I know I'm 5'9". You know, I'm not big. I do think I'm bigger than Buddy. I also just think my face looks sadder than Buddy does, you know? Twice, call me Buddy. You know, okay, listen, I don't care. If I'm getting on a plane and you call me Buddy, fuck it. You know, let's get in the skies. I'll be your little flight buddy. If I am doing a thing that a child can do, don't call me Buddy. Okay, if I am walking into a rock climbing gym that on weekends is packed with kids, don't treat me like the other little boys in here, okay? You could see that I am a man, okay? Although not large, I am a man. Grant, goddammit, won the goddamn Civil War. He's 5'9", 140. You going to call him buddy? I don't think so. You're going to call him General of the Army of the United States. And later, you call him President. So I'm fucking pissed. I put my fucking stupid gay-ass shoes on. I do some climbs, and I go over, and I find a place where nobody is around, because that's what I'd like more, to be alone at the rock climbing gym. And literally, like, this whole section of the place, nobody's in. It's crazy that nobody's even there. So I start climbing, and I climb like a V1, which is like the easiest is a V0. So this is pretty much the easiest wall. This is a V1. I climb it, and it's very easy. I don't struggle with it, and I come down. And then there's like a 6-year-old boy right behind me. And I'm like, immediately in my head, I'm like, he's about to climb the same wall. He saw me climbing it. He said, I can climb that wall too. And he wants to do it in front of me to show that he is as strong as me. And in my head, that I'm a bitch. So I walk over to another wall, because in my head, this is how petty I am, is that I'm like, I don't know, I feel like this kid, it would make him feel good if I was like, whoa, you showed me, or you did the same wall as me, or something like that. So I just go to another wall and I pretend to not be aware of anything he's doing and not give a fuck. But that's not true at all. I'm watching him out of the corner of my eye, and not in a creepy way, in a hateful way, that I feel like he's about to fucking do this. And he does. He climbs up the wall, climbs the same wall I just did, faster, comes down pretty cocky, and then walks away, shoulders back, arms out, Conor McGregor strut, kind of peering over to me just to say, hey, you know what you just fucking saw, you know? And I mean, that fucking, the thought of leaving immediately was, of course, the first thought. Well, it wasn't the first thought. The first thought was violence against the child. Verbal or physical, just throwing haymakers. I don't know, but I was mad. And then I was embarrassed that I was mad. But also that feeling happens to me all the time with anger issues, that you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm mad about this. And then you just stop being embarrassed. You're like, you know what, I am fucking mad. Fuck that kid, you know? I'm so mad. And I'm there with my friend Dan, and we're climbing for like 10 more minutes. And then 2 other people we know show up, which I didn't know that was happening. They show up, and I'm in no place to see people. I was very nice to him, but, you know, Dan was like, yeah, Cooper's mad at this kid. And I'm literally on a wall 15 feet away, and I'm yelling. I'm like, yeah, this fucking 6-year-old cunt. And I'm in this kid can probably hear me. I don't know where he went after that. Probably to go get a WWE belt and walk around with it like he's this shit. I'm screaming in the rock climbing. I'm like, this fucking piece of shit kid calling me a bitch with his climbing. And they're laughing because I'm trying to be funny. I need to make somebody laugh so I can feel efficacy in this world. There for 3 more minutes, and I gotta go. And one of the guys was my first time meeting him. I knew one person that showed up. I didn't know the other guy. And he was like, oh, man, you're leaving so soon. And I was like, yeah, I gotta go. I was like, yeah, I've been here a while. And he's like, how long you been here? And I was like, literally less than an hour. I'm sorry. I just have to go. I had no excuse. And it's one of those moments where you get back in your car and you're sitting there and you're like, you know, my friend is probably explaining to them that I truly left because of the kid. And they're all thinking about that. And, you know, I'm not really good at that kind of stuff of being like, you know, Cooper, if you leave right now, you're going to have 3 other adults that you know who work in the same industry as you talking about how you just got so angry at a 6-year-old you had to leave a public place. You know, and that seeps into booking. That seeps into to people wanting to have you on a comedy show. It's not really a stable mindset to be carrying around and presenting to people you meet. So yeah, and that just crushed me, you know, and I just drove home and just thought about him getting in a horrific car accident and, you know, getting hit by a drunk driver and being disabled and then being an orphan, but then he gets adopted by the family of the drunk driver that killed his parents and they fucking hate him for some reason, you know, and he's got to take the bus to physical therapy and just to and he can never rock climb again, you know, and he falls into a pit of acid or whatever. And you know, it sucks that I feel that way about that kid because he's a better man than me already. He's already doing bigger things. He's already climbing to bigger heights. He'll be the greatest rock climber in the world, and he'll get the most pussy that anybody's ever gotten. And I'll have lupus. I'll just have lupus forever. I'll just get lupus in a month, and I'll have it until I'm 120. I'm going to live to be 120, but I'm going to have severe lupus to the point that I'm glowing orange. I just look like Homer Simpson. You can see me from 1,000 miles away. And I get no pussy or dick for the rest of my life. The only people that fuck me are guys in furry costumes that are pretending I'm Homer Simpson's father. They put me in a cardigan and fuck me from the back. And that'll be my life, you know, because I'm consumed by anger, you know. So anyway, if you want to know what's been going on with me, that story is what's been going on with me. Honestly, I mean, anything else I've done has just been shadowed by this child, you know. I wake up in the morning, I make my breakfast, and I just twitch, and I just think about how I got bitch made at the fucking rock climbing gym, you know. And it sucks because I don't respect those people. I'd respect them if they were scaling Half Dome free solo like goddamn Alex Honnold, but they're not. They're playing pansy games. If they fall on cushions. If Alex Honnold falls, he dies in front of his wife. Think about that, you know? Yeah. Tell me how good you are rock climbing when you fucking die in front of your wife, okay? That's how I'll know that you're a fucking real motherfucker, okay? You're not just fucking bullshitting everybody. I don't know. I mean, you know, that's the rub of it. You know, that's what's going on in my life. And, you know, I finished my book on Ulysses S. Grant, and I'll tell you what, it's good to finish a historical biography and be able to say, pretty good guy. Pretty great guy, you know? Probably one of the least racist guys of his time. Because if you're the president after Andrew Johnson, who only was president because he filled in for Lincoln after he was assassinated, if you're the president after Abe Lincoln of a country where the guy that did free black people got shot in the head, you come after him, that's a scary job to have if you have all the same ideas, which he did. And, he defeated the first incarnation of the Ku Klux Klan at 5'9", 140. He helped secure voting rights for African Americans at 5'9", 140. He sent in federal troops to protect them at the polls at 5'9", 140. And, he did succumb to some political pressure and the North no longer supporting abolition. And he could have sent in more troops at more times to protect more newly freed voters. But, he did all that he could at 5'9", 140, And it is cool to have a president that's kind of an autistic guy that is just being like, no, that's wrong. No, what are you talking about? Those guys got to vote. You can't not let them vote. That's wrong. It doesn't make any sense. And it does seem so tough to be a president because it's like you literally fight this entire war to secure the freedom of a people. You get that freedom. Their freedom is not being protected. It's barely better than slavery. They cannot vote, even if they have the right. They're being killed if they try. And you're just trying to do these things that you have to do to make sure the Civil War was worth it. And then you have the gall of these motherfuckers in New York to be like, stop sending in troops to the South. And you're like, why the fuck did 750,000 Americans die then? So these guys can just not vote? And yeah, what you need is a fucking guy that can kill it at Risk. The board game, in Settlers of Catan. Think about how good Ulysses S. Grant would have been in Settlers of Catan. Are you kidding me? He was a master of organization and strategy. But it just sucks because you fight this whole war. You're the man. You're literally, your title is General of the Army of the United States. It's the most basic, biggest fucking thing you can have in the Army. And you're just like, yeah, what do you mean? That's why we fought in the war. And people are like, stop, come on, calm down. Ku Klux Klan isn't a big deal. And you're like, I defeated the Ku Klux Klan because they were killing your fellow Americans. And they're like, dude. And truly, the war for peace is a harder war than just to beat the South. Because you can shoot a bunch of fucking guys in the head and starve out a city till they sign a piece of paper, but you can't make them not racist, It's almost like, was that one writer or something that got, locked up? Was this also just Aristotle or Socrates? I don't know. Some guy was locked up. I think it was more recent, though. And he was writing, and then they took away his pad to write on. And then he was writing with pen on the walls. They took away his pen, and then he started scratching in on the walls. They took away... I don't know. They just fucked him over as much as they could. And then he was like, but they can't take away my mind. You know what I mean? They can never take away my mind. I will always have freedom of thought within my own head. And I think that's honestly the how Southerners consoled themselves after the Civil Wars. They were like, okay, I can't have slaves, but I can still be racist, and I think then you just grow this love for racism and you start to romanticize it as actually like some sort of rebel spirit. That's why when anybody invokes any of those phrases or anything, you're like, it just is so hard to not think you just want to be racist, It's so hard to sit here and act like you really just fucking love the South that much. I understand loving the South. I understand loving where you're from. I don't understand the need to enforce the use of the Confederate flag to show how much you love the place you're from, I don't know. Southerners are weird. Like Robert E. Lee said the only reason he fought for the Confederacy was because he was from Virginia and Virginia seceded. The Union Army asked him, because he went to West Point with Grant. They were like, hey, do you want to lead the Union? And he was like, no. I'll think it over. But no, because Virginia is seceding and I'm a big Virginia guy. But it's also like, yeah, but you also kind of knew that taking that job meant you defend slavery. You know what I mean? You can't be like, oh, I'm just going to work for Lockheed Martin because it's the business in my town. It has nothing to do with what they, it's not like I support anything. I don't know. So now, it's hard to not be fucking angry at the South, especially just people nowadays just with the gall to like to talk to fly the Confederate flag now is not only offensive but fucking stupid on so many different levels. It angers me not just as a person trying to be like, I'm not racist. It just angers me on a intellectual level of like all the people to want to align yourself with. It's like guys that like not only lost the war but just accomplished nothing and had nothing to offer the world or any plan for society. Like they thought they could just survive on agriculture. It's such a stupid idea. Such a little population. Like at least like if you're like a Nazi sympathizer, which I am not, those guys had a run. They started car companies that still exist to this day, which is crazy. They had like weapons the Confederates were a bunch of fucking idiots who signed their own death letter in support of slavery, in really support of anti-innovation and progression. They were like, our whole thing is we're just never going to change. And we're literally going to live like people lived in the fucking Middle Ages. If you really think about it, there's like nothing there to support. Even if you take away just being a racist, even if somehow you could enjoy the parts of the Confederacy that weren't racist, there's nothing good about it. There's nothing that it offers the world or did at any point, It's like the most reactionary, stupid stance. And then just for no reason, years and years later, to be like, yeah, let's fly that flag. Is you're like, have you read a book about, like, have you read anything about it? You should live with a level of shame. At least shame for those that came before you if you're in that region, And I should live with a level of shame, just being a white person that was, involved with it. I don't know. Listen, I'm not saying you have to walk around hating yourself. I'm just saying walking around supporting the Confederacy is like, I mean, that's like if you were like, I am a huge Cleveland Browns fan. Also, the Cleveland Browns own slaves. It's like, what is the... And I know they're doing well with Joe Flacco, right? I'm just saying historically they're a bitch-made team that deserves nothing in the world. Could throw in the Vikings too, but I like the Vikings. But it's truly just like if the Cleveland Browns owned slaves. It's just like, what are you getting out of liking this? It gets you nothing. They gain no ground. They're not smart. They're not likable. And most of all, they're evil. They're like the dumbest people in the world, and they're fucking evil. Like it's not like if you go back in the annals of history, you're like, what's weird is Confederacy invented the internal combustion engine. Isn't that great? Like, no, there's nothing. They added nothing. The only thing they contributed to the world was like a dumbass constitution and songs about how cool it is to be racist. Which honestly is enough for a lot of people. And, maybe it's just something I don't understand. But, motherfuckers, with the gall to not remember the bravery of Ulysses S. Grant and why he did it for our country, baby. Come on. You kidding me? I mean, there's a way to love your country, and sometimes it means killing hundreds of thousands of your countrymen because they're racist. You know what I mean? That's also patriotism. I think there's a lot of anti-patriotism because usually it's... racist dumbasses are patriotic, and they use it just to be racist. But really, there is a way to be patriotic where what you do is you actually kill hundreds of thousands of racists in your country because you believe that they are committing treason and they're pieces of shit against your country. That's patriotism, saying, I believe in the idea of this country so much. I think people have forgotten it's an American experiment. You know what I mean? And it hasn't gone right in a lot of ways. But that it's an experiment that needs to be upheld and protected, and if we all believe in it, maybe it could work. Now you got all these motherfuckers thinking it's cool to secede Come on, that's like skipping school, okay? Get back in class. Let's figure this out together, okay? And Grant was very good to you people. The Union was more than fucking was more nice than they should have been. There's a whole fucking belief now that the Union went through and fucking tore up the South. And, yeah, we did. We did tear up a lot of the fucking South, and we fucked up a lot of your cities. I'm sorry, because you were using those factories to support an army that was fighting for slavery. What do you expect? Grant allowed you motherfuckers to be paroled and go home with your sidearms, and everything except your slaves. You got to take all your shit except your slaves, and you're still mad at us. That's crazy. You're so mad we didn't give you your slaves back. It's crazy. And you're still mad about it? Like, go fuck yourself. The people that in any way can make an argument that is at all against the Union struggle in 2023, and I know this is an insane thing to talk about as if this is not so agreed upon, but if you look around, it's not, and that's fucking stupid. But I think it's important to read those books because, you can have sort of a sports team mentality, which I think helps, You can be like, no, these guys were fucking sick. They existed, they were real, and they fought for something that still exists today. What the fuck are you flying that flag for? You fucking idiot. It's like flying a flag for, like, the fucking XFL or something. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, wow, what a riveting cast. I got to get to work. I think this one's a little short. I apologize, but I love you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.